Let's say I gave you this math problem, 5 plus 3 times 7. How would you solve it? Take a second to work the problem through and see what answer you can come up with. Maybe you just started reading it from right to left or left to right, the same way that you read a book, and you did this 5 plus 3 first. 5 plus 3 is 8. And then you did that 8 times 7. What would you get? 56. So if 8 times 7 is 56, then you could have solved this problem to say 5 plus 3 times 7 is 56. But what if I told you that was wrong? What if I told you that there was a specific order that you have to follow when you're doing problems like this with more than one operation, meaning addition and subtraction and multiplication and division all into one? Well, there's a specific order that you have to use, and it's called order of operations. So let's look at this problem again. 5 plus 3 times 7. So what if I told you that you had to do your multiplication before you could do your addition? I'll explain why later, but let's say that's the case. 3 times 7, we would have to solve that one first. It's 21. So then I can add the 5 to it. 5 plus 21 is 26. This order of operations, this very, very specific step-by-step process I have to use, tells me that the answer is going to be 26. So let's talk about why. Order of operations is what mathematicians call the order that we have to solve our steps, meaning when we have multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, and sometimes even more, there is a step-by-step process that we have to follow when we do these. First, we have to solve what's called parentheses. Parentheses are symbols that look like that. You might have seen them in some other math problems before. You probably saw them in your distributive property. You might have even seen them back in 3rd and 4th grade when we were talking about associative property or commutative property. Parentheses are little brackets that look like this on your computer keyboard. It's up above the numbers 9 and 0. But this just is a way of grouping a couple numbers together and separating them a little bit from the rest of the problem. So like I said, those are grouping the numbers together. So for us, we're going to call these parentheses and any other symbols that are like that grouping symbols. Okay? Any sort of symbol that groups numbers together. This might even be a division bar, meaning if I have some numbers up here and then other numbers down here. This division bar here groups those numbers between my top and my bottom. So that's another example of a grouping symbol. So in our order of operations, we have to look for grouping symbols first. After that, we look at multiplication and division. We've learned in past grade levels that multiplication and division are related because they're inverse, they're opposite of each other. Okay, so 3 times 4 equals 12. The opposite of that is 12 divided by 3 equals 4. They create fact families and they work kind of opposite of each other. So multiplication and division, think of them like cousins. Okay, they're related to each other, so they come in equal places in line. So when we have multiplication and division at the same time, as a tiebreaker, we just look for whichever one gets in line first. So imagine that you and your brother or you and your sister are running downstairs for dinner time. You're both equal, you're both siblings, okay? But whoever gets in line first is the first one that gets their dinner, okay? So if who have multiplication and division, they're related to each other. So to break the tie, if they're both there, we look at whichever comes first. After that comes our addition or subtraction, okay? So again, the same thing, they're related to each other. Addition and subtraction are opposites of each other. 2 plus 6 is 8. In the same way that 8 minus 6 is 2. They work opposite each other, but they're still related. So when there's a tie and we need to break the tie between addition and subtraction, we look at whoever comes first. Now this can get a little tricky, but let's think of it this way. we will always look for grouping symbols first, okay? We might have division and then multiplication, okay? But again, it just matters whoever comes first in line. We might have subtraction or addition, but again, it's whoever comes first in line, okay? The biggest thing to remember is that I always look for my grouping symbols before I look for multiplication or division. And then last, I look for my addition and subtraction. So let's look at what that might look like here. Let's say I have 2 minus 1 times 3 plus 4. So do you see how there's subtraction, multiplication, and addition? There's a lot of operations happening here, okay? I don't always just start from the left and just work all the way across. There is an order that I have to follow. So let's use our order of operations, okay? Do I see anything that shows a grouping symbol? No, I don't. But what if I put parentheses right there? Do I have a grouping symbol now? I do. I have a grouping symbol, this 3 plus 4. So that means before I look at anything else, I have to solve what's inside that group, those parentheses. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I'm going to write the 7 down there. And then I'm going to scratch out 3 and 4 because I've used the numbers. I can't use them again. But I still have all of these other things left over. So I'm going to write them all down here just to help keep my brain straight, to help me focus on my steps, on my order of the operations that I have to solve. So do I have any other grouping symbols down here? Nope, I'm done. So I'm going to check them off my list. I know that I'm all finished and I have nothing else that I have to do here. Okay. So then I have 2 minus 1 times 7. I have subtraction and I have multiplication. Now, according to my order of operations, which one should I solve next? Should I solve the multiplication up here, or should I move down and solve the addition and subtraction? That's right, multiplication comes next in line. I have to solve my multiplication next. Addition, subtraction is at the end of my order of operations, so I solve those at the end. 1 times 7 is 7. Once I've solved that, I'm going to scratch those two numbers out because I cannot use them again. But I'm going to bring down whatever else I have left to do here.